Hi, thanks for watching today. My name's Caitlin, and I will be the introducer and the researcher for the pro side of our debate. Joining me on the pro side will be Letty as fielder and summarizer. Um, and joining us on the con side of the debate will be Rachel as summarizer and researcher, and Tiffany as introducer and fielder. Marjorie will be acting as illustrator for both sides of the debate today. So today's debate will be on the topic of technology use in the fields of special education and applied behavior analysis. Is it threatening the future of the field? Letty and I will be supporting the idea that technology threatens the future of ABA and special education, while Rachel and Tiffany will be against the idea that technology threatens the field's future. Marjorie will be assisting both teams in illustrating their points either for or against our topic. On the topic of technology and the future of special education and ABA, I will be supporting the idea that technology threatens the future of special education and ABA and should not be exclusively or heavily relied on. Some of the main points as to why we should not rely on technology in our field include accessibility, technology lifespan, situational constraints, difficulty with generalization, boundaries of competence for practitioners, and a lack of substantial research. Regarding accessibility, technology is not accessible by all members of the community or even by some communities as a whole. This could be due to many factors, including cost and funding, access to internet services, and access to materials such as devices to purchase, rent, or borrow, or services that repair or replace damaged devices. Regarding technology lifespans, frequent and ongoing advances are being made in the field of technology that may help keep the highest functioning and most efficient devices available for the masses, but stakeholders are not always able to upgrade devices upon each new version when recommended. Regarding situational constraints on the available technology, those who work in the field of special education and ABA work closely with those who exhibit maladaptive behaviors, sometimes behaviors involving destruction of property. A device could be easily broken, shattered, cracked, or exposed to water damage during the natural course of the day, causing a lapse in predicted services while waiting for repair or replacement. Some generalization difficulties. As devices update frequently, the appearance of the device and device components change as well. By frequently changing the appearance of devices and device components, some clients may be unable to generalize across devices, systems, or upgrades as quickly as the devices change. Regarding boundaries of competency for practitioners, Compliance Code 1.02 requires that practitioners should provide services, teach, and conduct research only within the boundaries of their competency, education, training, and supervised experience. Practitioners, caregivers, and teachers are not often properly trained on technology use due to availability of specific training, cultural barriers, or language barriers. Regarding Compliance Code 1.01, it requires that practitioners have a reliance on scientific knowledge, and at this time there is not extensive research in favor of technology use in the field of special education and ABA. Regarding privacy concerns, the use of technology for video conferencing, telehealth, online data taking, and other network-based practice raises privacy concerns regarding protected health information and private client information and the risks of a data breach. All right, now on to Tiffany.
Hi, everyone. Again, I am Tiffany. I'll be introducing for why technology should be used in special education. First, I wanted to just touch a base on a couple of points. First off, technology should be used for clients and families because if they are unable to access services because of where they live, then services should be provided. Some clients and families might live in rural areas and may not have centers or programs around them. Parents of the clients may also be at their wits' end depending on the behaviors that are presented. So they might be seeking help and may not be able to access that help just because of where they live. Technology also may help them to obtain this help without having to travel and to disrupt the routine. We all know that clients with disabilities are very routine oriented a lot of times. So disrupting the routine could play a major factor in that. Secondly, I want to touch base on that once services begin for a client, the use of technology can be of assistance with completing some of the skills and with learning new skills. So if they are receiving services, many clients will seek out services just because they may not have the communication skills. There are many different ways to be able to teach this technology or teach this communication. One of the ways is through PECS, sign language, and the use of an augmentative communication device. So technology does play hand in hand with being able to communicate, and it will honestly open up the audience for how they are able to communicate. Although that all of these are effective ways to communicate with others, using technology to teach communication will allow them to communicate to a broader audience and will alleviate some of the stressors by allowing them to communicate their wants and needs effectively. Also, I want to touch base on how it is the societal norm to use technology today. A lot of us will walk around and use cell phones and online chats and email, and the same should apply for clients with disabilities. They should have this access as well. It assists in teaching many different social skills and daily living skills to a lot of different children. A lot of the time, this is done through the use of video modeling and being able to read through a script or something that is computer-based. The last point I want to touch on is that technology can also help paraprofessionals program for varied instruction delivery. If you are using technology, you will be able to promote generalization by teaching the skills through various different programs involving technology, not just through contrived situations. So a lot of times technology can be used in other locations rather than just at the table. Most of the teaching is done at the table, so it does lack the natural environment teaching. So using technology can program for generalization in many different ways because you are able to access it in different locations. It also helps to take instructors out of the picture as much as possible. So it allows for more independency. A lot of learners become prompt dependent and will only emit skills in the presence of others. That's one of the problems with generalization. So technology can assist with that generalization by taking the instructor out of the picture and allowing for others to be as independent as possible. These are just a few points that I wanted to touch base on for why technology should be used in special education. So now Letty will summarize for why technology should not be used.
In summary, technology is used constantly among special education and ABA, but regardless of how practical technology may be, it does not work well all the time, which is why it threatens the future of special education and ABA. Research, as those conducted by Barakia 2017, have concluded that technology is not reliable and is cost-effective. Technology can get damaged, and the replacement of technology can take months and become a very stressful situation for most families. Internet issues may occur of which you have no control and may result in session interruption. Privacy of clients it's not secure, and technology devices require client information at times, which places the client's personal information at risk of getting exposed. Technology is expensive. Technology is released every year, and with technology advancements occurring too frequently, and staying up with the latest advancements can start to impact the family's budget, and not all families are able to provide their child with the latest technology. School funding is limited. Not all schools, especially public schools, have the luxury to provide their students with the most up-to-date technology, which meets each individual's needs. Family economic factors can become an issue. Professionals in special education and ABA work with families from a variety of cultures and different socioeconomic backgrounds, and not all can afford the high-cost technology. Technology can be incorrectly used. If professionals, parents, and/or guardians are not trained correctly, the use of technology can have serious effects on the treatment of the client. A factor to consider is cultural limitations. Language barriers can make the use of technology difficult and frustrating, resulting in ineffective treatment results. Technology dependency is also a factor to consider when using technology. Limitations may occur. For instance, clients may spend too much time using technology that when skills are achieved, the client may not be able to demonstrate the skills learned when out in their community with an actual human being. Also, with all the constant changes in technology, the appearance may also change, and therefore clients may not be able to generalize among devices and upgrades. Now, Caitlin will present the research.
All right, so the first study that I'm going to talk about today was done in 2015. So one common use for technology in the field of special education, ABA, is the use of video modeling technology. In a study done by Olka Kirkoglu in 2015 titled A Comparison of Least to Most Prompting in Video Modeling for Teaching Pretend Play Skills to Children with Autism Spectrum Disorder, the research compared success of skill acquisition using video modeling and least to most prompting. They utilized an alternating treatment model in a single subject design. The results looked at the acquisition, maintenance, and generalization of the pretend play skills, and they found that there was no marked difference between the two teaching methods. While one limitation of this study was that it focused only on teaching pretend play skills, it demonstrated that while technology can be helpful, it is no more beneficial to teaching these skills in this instance than using the least most prompting. The next study is regarding telehealth. So telehealth is also a common use of technology in the field of ABA, involving video conferencing between parents, practitioners, and clients, and exchange of private health information and treatment recommendations and practices over a technology network. A study from 2017 titled Intercontinental Telehealth Coaching of Therapists to Improve Verbalizations by Children with Autism was published by Barkaya, and they focused on the effects of intercontinental telehealth. So in this study, they were working on communication with some underserved communities in Eastern Europe coming from the United States. There are several problems reported in this study from their clients, including dropped calls, bad network connections, excessive background noise during meetings, and then cultural and language differences when giving feedback to members of another culture. So a lot of the telehealth involves giving feedback and instruction to parents or caregivers, and there was a large amount of research required to find the appropriate means of critiquing and correcting those in other cultures, as well as communicating through the language barriers. So this was specific to communications between the United States and developing countries in Eastern Europe. Several problems with technology-related issues were reported, and they found that technology was not always the most reliable means of communication, as they had several dropped calls and issues with connectivity. Another study focused on telehealth was done in 2013 by Vismara, McCormick, Young, Nadan, and Monlux, titled Preliminary Findings of a Telehealth Approach to Parent Training in Autism. So this study utilized video conferencing and self-guided websites to provide parent training to parents of children with autism spectrum disorder. So the first 8 families to complete the 12-week online intervention and follow-up period were used as the pilot data for the study. And the findings reported that the monetary cost of the technological programs and the time required for individuals to learn how to effectively use the required technology played a large part of the decision-making process when looking into telehealth versus in-person training. The study reiterated the point that the benefits of services provided do not always outweigh the cost of attaining the services, whether it be financially or time that it takes to learn to use the technology involved. And this study as a whole supported telehealth, but made several points about the clear limitations that the participants were already in possession of or were able to gain possession of the required technology and network connectivity to participate. So one of the main barriers to widespread technology use is just simply access to the required materials and networks. So this study only looked into those who already had the availability. And the last study that I'll be talking about today is from 2013. So public schools are also a place where many clients in the special education and ABA world can acquire access to technologies that were previously unavailable to them. However, as a study from Davis, Barnard Brack, and Arredondo find, even school districts that offer assistive technologies for their students are not always well equipped to include these services in the treatment plans of their students. A survey of special education directors from across the state of Texas was done in this study, and they were given questions that regarded assistive technology decision-making and implementation procedures in their district. Several schools in the study stated the need for more training on the assistive technology used, but also reported an unwillingness to travel to receive this training. Only half of the schools that reported in this study had an assistive technology specialist on staff. So these would be the experts on hand that would be able to assist the teachers and practitioners with any troubleshooting or to conduct hands-on training for the district employees, but only half of the districts had one on their staff. Several of the rural area districts reported having fewer assistive technology devices available to them. And while the study focused only on Texas school districts, they had a wide array of both rural and urban reporters in the survey. Now on to Marjorie.
The following video vignettes account for everyday occurrences of instances where technology is a hindrance to the fields of ABA and special education.
Showing video vignettes as to why the fields of ABA and special education should not rely heavily on technology. Vignette number 1 has to do with generalization difficulties. What do you want? I want the phone.
I want the phone.
What do you want? What do you want? The phone?
He knows how to ask for the phone.
What do you want? Oh, he doesn't.
He asked me for it.
You try it.
Ask for the phone.
I want the phone.
Vignette number 2, technological difficulties. The iPad is not charged when needed to be used.
What's up? What do you need? Go grab your iPad. Nope, it's not charged.
Vignette number 3 has to do with the cultural perspective. A Spanish-speaking household has a child that goes to an English-speaking school. The iPad is only in English.
One banana, cannelloni, black olives, and cake.
¿Eh?
One banana, cannelloni, black olives, and cake.
No te entiendo.
One banana, cannelloni, black olives, and cake.
Sí, pero está en inglés, no te oigo. Pero no te entiendo.
Black olives, and cake.
No te entiendo. No sé, está en inglés, yo no hablo inglés.
Vignette number 4, technology advancements. Difficulties in uploading one app from one iPad to another.
It's paused. It's paused.
It's paused? Let me
It's
see.
paused.
Let me see. Oh, doesn't work on this one.
It's
a different-
paused.
Yeah, but it's a different one.
No, it's paused.
Can't do anything. It's a different system.
Open it. Pause. No pause.
I can't help you.
No pause.
Vignette number 5. The iPad is not being used for its academically intended purposes.
Okay, here's your story about guided dogs.
A guide dog helps a person who is blind.
Good job.
The person cannot see or sees only a little.
Monster.
What are you doing over here? Go back to your story.
And now Rachel will present the points for the use of technology.
All right. Let me just. All right, before we talk about whether or not technology should be used in education, we should immediately take a look at the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act that was passed in 2004. Within that IDEA Act, the act mandates that it is the school system's absolute responsibility to provide assistive technology devices and services to students with disabilities. Now, if this is not met, it could escalate to things such as due process hearings or replacement of lost services. And these are very costly to school systems, and I'm sure would be avoided at all costs. So we want to provide that technology to those students. In the field of ABA, we can look at the compliance code, and 2.15 says that behavior analysts should act in the best interests of the client and supervisee to avoid interruption or disruption of service. So if that technological service is being implemented for a child, then we have no right to interrupt or disrupt that service. And I want to talk a little bit more about technology. There are different kinds of technology. Most people, when we look at technology, we think of things such as iPads and phones and smart boards, but it goes much farther than that, much more than people realize. So there are 3 different types of technology: high, mid, and low technology. High is what most people think about: the iPads, the AAC devices, electric wheelchairs, very needed. But there's the mid section, and that can include things like the Big Mac buttons, voice amplification systems for students with hearing impairments, screen magnifiers for students with visual impairments, gait trainers for physical impairments, and even headphones for book on tape. Now that last category, the low, is what people really don't think of as technology. These things can be like visual schedules, special paper with the raised lines or the bright highlighted yellow, pencil grips, slant boards, or even counting bears. All of these supports can count as technology. All of these supports that we readily depend on. Now, technology can be used for a lot of different things. We know that technology can be used for communication, especially regarding AAC devices, but we can also have PECs and choice boards and things like that to be considered low technology. So communication, and another big one that I'm going to be talking about is differentiation of instruction. And differentiation instruction makes sure everyone's needs are met. And this is really important because individuals with ASD have a wide variety of characteristics and skills. No one you can expect the same skills out of. So we want to make sure that all those different needs are met. And to do that, we use differentiated instruction. Now, technology can be used to differentiate instruction. Think about some students listening to books on tape, some students using a spell checker when writing words, or the slant board. Technology can also be used to integrate academic areas together. For parent communication, we use technology to communicate with parents, like cell phones and email. Technology can support students with physical disabilities, electric wheelchairs, gait walkers. We need these things to support those students. And lastly, communication can provide more independence at work and at home. So we can program alarms into an iPad of when to do things, when to pick up the house, when to start the laundry. Now, there's different ways to get communication devices. I know they're very costly, and that's one of the cons of technology. But there are a lot of different funding options. One of my favorite is device lending libraries. So these are actually a lot more common than people think. Check your city, but there are libraries that you can go to and check out devices. And they have things like Nova Chat, other AAC devices that you can take home and try and see if it works. And if it doesn't, you take it right back. But also the school system can help fund. Your insurance company can help fund, Medicaid funds. Some charitable organizations can be found. Medicare now funds, and some foundations. And you don't just have to pick one of these. You can pick and choose. So you can do, say, 30% of my device will be paid for by insurance, 30% by Medicaid. Now that I've discussed the topics of technology that I want to discuss, I want to go into the research that can support my arguments. So the first study that I want to discuss is called Increasing Performance by Differentiated Teaching, which I was talking about, that necessity of differentiated instruction. So they took 115 high school students. At the beginning of a 12-week period, everyone took a pretest, and then they split the group into two. One group received differentiated instruction with technology, and the other group did not. At the end of that 12 weeks, the group that received technological supports scored higher on their post tests. And this was in a lot of different academic areas like English and math. A specific quote from that study says that the effect of technological differentiation is robust. However, there were some limitations. Potential correlation of characteristics of the students and unobservable factors were with both the treatment and the outcome variables. The next study I want to talk about is building bridges between technology and content literacy in special education, a big use for technology. So this single site case study describes the outcomes and lessons learned from the implementation of technology professional development initiative aimed at helping 3 special education teachers in an urban elementary school on how to infuse technology in their content literacy. So this was a training for 3 special education teachers in an elementary school on how to integrate this technology. And at the end of this training on integration, every single teacher was able to successfully integrate technology into literacy instruction. And also every single teacher continued to integrate technology into other subjects as well. One of the teachers said, "I quickly began to see how I could easily incorporate these great apps and websites to enhance my instruction." Another teacher said, "I use technology throughout all areas of my teaching now." Another study I want to talk about is actually a meta-analysis of 9 different studies. So it just talks about technology supports. They did have difficulty finding studies that fit that criteria, but the ones that they did find, they separated each support in different areas: academic skills, transitions, daily living skills, challenging behavior, vocational skills, task completion, engagement, and communication. So they assessed assistive technology in every single one of these fields, and in every single one of these fields, results improved. One limitation, however, was difficulty finding those studies. So I can understand that. One more study I want to talk about is technology-aided interventions and instructions for adolescents. They say that the use of technology in intervention and instruction for adolescents right now is increasing at a striking rate. And this is obviously due to the increasing use of technology in our society in general. So this study talks about how the broad spectrum of abilities of these students require that differentiated support. They assessed 30 different articles and again had difficulty finding ones that fit criteria, but they found that the research literature that existing supported absolutely the use of technology in interventions and instructions for these individuals. And it is consistent with every other recently published review of adolescents with ASD. Every single study in this decided that it was a positive impact on these children. Oh, I really like this next study, and it was kind of interesting because Caitlin was talking about telehealth and how it was costly, but the study I have, Preliminary Findings of a Telehealth Approach to Parent Training in Autism, found a positive effect, which is interesting. The telehealth is online communication. It's two-way video conferencing, self-guided website, discussion board for these parents to learn interventions in order to implement at home, so that they can implement these same interventions at home that are being implemented at school or center. 8 families did the 12-week online training, and at the end of the training, all the parents felt very confident in their use of intervention skills to improve their child's social communication skills. And some of them felt that they could help other caretakers do the same training. Their limitation was a small sample size, lack of standardized testing, and potential respondent bias, as there were questionnaires involved. So the very last study I want to talk about is applying technology to visually support language and communication, which is incredibly important. It reviews the communication hardware and software that we use. It discusses how the role of technology in society has provided opportunities for the development of new means of communication for individuals with autism. We can use technology, they discuss, for the communication systems to improve language instruction. And I really enjoyed this for video modeling. I did not think about that, but video modeling is a great tool to use. And that is a good tool for technology. But they finish upon the widespread uses of innovative technology across every segment of society bodes well for persons with ASD. So that is why technology can be beneficial for special education and ABA. And I'm going to give it back to Marjorie to further illustrate her point.
Okay, so the following video vignettes account for everyday occurrences of instances where technology is a necessary agent in the fields of ABA and special education.
Hello. Today we will be showing video vignettes as to why the fields of ABA and special education should rely heavily on technology. Vignette number 1 has to do with the impact of the quality of life of a person that uses this technology. Hi, Mia. What do you want? Your mouth hurts? Go get me your talker.
I want apple.
Oh, you want an apple. Here's your apple. Vignette number 2 deals with differentiation of instruction, a child on the spectrum in a regular classroom that is using an iPad. All right, class, today we're going to be doing our assignment on guided dogs. Brandon, this is your packet to read. The questions are in the back. Mia, here is your iPad so you can do the same reading.
A guide dog helps a person who is blind. The person cannot see or sees only in little. Walking alone could be dangerous. The guide dog is like the person's eyes.
Vignette number 3 deals with societal factors and apps on the Play Store that would help with following schedule for the day or using your cell phone for calendars with reminders.
Okay, you woke up, you washed your face, you got dressed, you ate your breakfast. Now go brush your teeth.
Good.
Good job.
All right, our final vignette is on improved outcomes from technology with service delivery. Linda Milliar has an article out in 2017, Improving Learning Outcomes, the iPad and Preschool Children with Disabilities. Class, we're going to talk about the pros and the cons. Okay, Mia and Brandon, this study had 8 subjects. We're just going to look at the first one, at the pros and the cons. Mia, what are the cons?
Well, with this, the client got too attached to the iPad, and then the parent had some difficulties with implementing it because they found it difficult to use it and to be able to limit it in their home.
Okay, so do you think that it's something that could be worked on?
I think we could address this with the parents and then just do some parent education on how to limit it and give them some strategies.
Okay. Brandon, what are your thoughts on the pros?
Well, from what I see is that the pros are a lot more numerous than the cons, namely improving language, improving the independence, and improvements in attention are all very beneficial for the students' development.
Okay, so would you, looking at this, would you give your child an iPad or not?
I think based on the information available, I definitely would.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And now Letty and Tiffany will now facilitate the question and answer portion of our presentation.
If technology is used on a daily basis, what happens if the technology isn't accessible? Let's say the battery is dead, family is out of town, or is broken.
Well, first of all, like Rachel said, technology doesn't necessarily only include electronics. So I wanted to point out one of the articles that Rachel did find, stated by Davis, Brack, and Arredondo in 2013, stated that any item, piece of equipment, or product system, whether acquired commercially, off the shelf, modified, or customized, that is used to increase, maintain, or improve functional capabilities of a child with a disability is considered assistive technology. So I think that with technology, there is also an opportunity for lesser technology to be used. So we can look at those low technology forms, like Rachel was saying, the high, the mid, and the low. So we need to look more on the low end. So also, the children that are using these technology devices, whether it is high, medium, or low, they should have some basic learner skills to be able to utilize other forms of technology. So if they aren't able to use any of their devices, they're still able to gaze, or they're able to reach, or they're able to have those basic learning skills that will prevent them from having to use those technology devices.
How can generalization be achieved through technology if clients are not being exposed to the actual presence of another human being?
Well, first of all, if the client is receiving behavior analytic services, code 6.01 from the BACB compliance code states that behavior analysts should uphold and advance the values, ethics, and principles of behavior analysis. Within these principles, they should be programming for generality. So behavior analysts need to continually analyze, and if programming is generalizing appropriately, and if it's not, then changes need to be made. But with this technology, then generality is being programmed because it is able to be used in various different locations, across different settings, different people. It can be used by a wider audience too.
What are some ways in which we can ensure that people from different cultural backgrounds are being well trained with the use of technology?
With the way that we, a lot of times that whenever we do teach our clients, we will use something in the form of a task analysis. That doesn't just go for the clients. Task analysis can be used across people. So a task analysis can be made up that is very broken down for using the technology. This is a way that we can hand over something that is not technology. It might be considered one of those lower forms of technology, but it will explain to them how they can effectively use the technology. Also, I think that if programs are using the technology, then training will be provided prior to implementation. of that programming. I think that through the use of behavior skills training with parents, that way that they can ensure that they are able to demonstrate the appropriate use of the technology. The hands-on training will help to establish that and will help to show that. So before using those things, they need to be able to have the appropriate training.
The cost of technology can become an issue at times. Therefore, clients are given technology that does their needs. What are some ways this can be prevented so that the client is not at a disadvantage with technology?
I want to touch base on the article that Rachel found again. The assistive technology, the decision-making practices in public schools, and the cost of assistive technology. This was by Davis, Bracken, Arredondo, 2013. And they did state that nearly 6.5 million school-age students with disabilities are considered for assisted technology as part of free and appropriate public education. So according to FAPE, they should be granted that use of the technology. So that is one form that if it is one of those that, they're being at a disadvantage or an advantage, then it is mandated that they receive that appropriate technology. Also stated in the article, they have $30 million allocated to be able to support the research to increase the access to the AT devices and services to individuals with disabilities of all ages. So they are actively researching and finding ways to show that AT devices are assisting people. Also, IEPs require districts to be able to use the AT devices for children with special needs. Okay. I want to ask Letty some questions now. So this is for why technology should not be used. So first of all, what if the child moves to a location where they're not able to receive services and there isn't a center or a program near them? How will a behavior analyst continue to provide the treatment?
Parents are an important part of a treatment plan, and a lot of BCBAs encourage parents to learn and take part of their child's interventions. A plan can be made so that parents are able to implement certain aspects of a session as recommended by the BCBA. The client's school may also have an RBT. Many RBTs work in school environments that are not necessarily close to the clinic for which they work. Sessions may be school settings so that the client is able to continue to receive services. The center for which he or she belongs may also suggest and make accommodations. Each center is different and can make arrangements so that the family needs without violating the code of ethics.
Research has proven positive effects on the use of technology to improve communication. So considering that technology ranges from the low, the mid, and the high range, what are some effective methods to improve communication without the use of technology?
Teaching through a simple yes and no method can go a long way in communication. The following can be done through teaching the client how to blink, use a tight fist, point out words, and looking up and down to signal a yes or no. Signing and gesturing may also be a method for teaching. Research such as the one conducted by Goodman in 2017 demonstrated the effectiveness of gesturing when teaching communication. Using objects, for example, giving a client items which signify what they are, doing such as an activity or place where they are going to school, the pool, grocery store, and ultimately the client can be taught to do the same with whomever it is they need to communicate with.
So the last question, considering the current time period where technology is being used on a daily basis, would individuals with disabilities be at a disadvantage if technology is not used? So would parents be more inclined to seek treatments which incorporate the use of technology due to its practicality with their busy lifestyle?
No, clients can use technology on a regular basis. Clients may actually be getting a break from technology during sessions, which can facilitate sessions by providing less distractions. The Compliance Code 1.01, Resilience on Scientific Knowledge, there is no extensive research in favor of the technology use. Many parents seek to find services that best serve their child. Parents are in all right to terminate services, and BCBAs also have the responsibility to do what's best in the interest of the client, as stated under the Code 2.1 Ethical Compliance Code for Behavior Analysts. I believe this concludes our presentation. Thank you everyone for watching.